Good morning, everyone. My name is Rowan Hawthorne. I work for the Vermont Department of Labor. I'm the principal assistant here, and I've been working with the apprenticeship team to get this amazing panel set up. Thank you so much for joining us today. We've got a fantastic group of experts on apprenticeships here to speak with us. We even have a couple of guests from Austria joining us. Austria has one of the best apprenticeship models in the world, and I'm thrilled that they're willing to spend some time with us today to discuss. I wanted to start as well by saying that we're here to focus on pathways to excellence in apprenticeships, and this happens by having a healthy ecosystem of apprenticeships. And this, as an ecosystem, as we know, is a complex network or interconnected system, which seems reasonable to assign to this topic and this idea, considering we have so many different actors as part of the apprenticeship system. We're trying to build an incredible network that supports Vermonters in getting high skill, high wage jobs that helps them stay in Vermont. And today we're also celebrating the signing of an MOU that happened yesterday, a memorandum of understanding between the Austrian government and the government of Vermont. We're working on building a partnership and moving forward, exchanging knowledge, and this is our first event of that beautiful partnership. We've got some guests here today, and Maureen, would you mind starting us off by introducing yourself?
Sure. Thank you for inviting me today. I'm Maureen Hebert. I'm the Director of Strategic Initiatives and Employer Partnerships at the University of Vermont PACE, which is Professional and Continuing Education. I've worked in workforce development for over 28 years across the state, and particularly on apprenticeship programs with the Vermont State Colleges. So thank you for inviting me.
So glad to see you. We've got some folks from GS Precision. Would you mind introducing yourselves this morning?
Yes, Jose Silva here from GS Precision. Just wanted to thank you guys for having us on. We're excited to be here. I'm the lead and continuous improvement coordinator at GS Precision, as well as the working compliance officer. I've been here for about 7 years now, and here to represent our registered apprenticeship that has been an apprenticeship for just 1 year for our GSP school, even though our school has been ongoing for 9 years now. We just most recently became an official registered apprenticeship, and that's something we were super excited about. And then I'll turn it over to Josh.
My name is Josh Vassar. I've been here for about 5 years. Started off in high school just as a co-op student and then worked my way up, and I just recently got promotion of GSP school overlooker and training coordinator. So thank you very much for having us today.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Mr. Thomas, can you introduce yourself to us?
Okay, good morning, everybody. A big hello from Vienna, from Austria. My name is Thomas Meyer. I work for IBW Austria, which is a research and development institute. And we are something like the back office for apprenticeship training. So what we do is we monitor apprenticeship training here in Austria. We do lots of empirical research. We support the social partners, so the employers and the trade unions, in drawing up the professional profiles. We help companies with training guidelines, etc., and I'm going to talk about the Austrian system in a while. And for the time being, I just say thanks for the interest and thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Benjamin, would you mind going next?
Yes. So hello and good morning from my side. My name is Benjamin Lettner. I'm the Executive Vice President of Operations for Engel in North America. You may be able to tell by my accent I'm Austrian, but I have been living in the US for a little bit over 4 years now. I have been exposed to apprenticeships my whole life. Many of my friends and family have been going through apprenticeship programs. I think from our background as an Austrian company, we may have had an advantage or a head start with introducing our apprenticeship program, but I'm very happy to be able to oversee an apprenticeship program here in York, Pennsylvania with our team, which I'm also very happy that I can give some insights into that in a little while. So thanks for having me, and I'm looking forward to a great event. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I've got a couple participants here by phone as well today. Ronnie, can you hear me okay? Perhaps we're having a few technical difficulties, unfortunately. I've got Patrick, are you online as well? We seem to be having, unfortunately, some difficulties getting in touch. So while we're trying to figure that out, I was wondering if we could, maybe we can just start by discussing there's a few other things we could discuss. Oh, fantastic.
Can you hear me, Rowan?
Yes, I can.
Oh, great. Hi, I am Ronnie Basden, experiencing all sorts of technical troubles on my side, but I am the director over at unfortunately, some difficulties getting in touch. So, we're trying to figure that out. I was wondering if we could, maybe we can just start by discussing there's a few. Hi. Oh, fantastic. Can you hear me, Ruben? Yes, I can.
Hi. Can
Great. And Ronnie Basden, experiencing all sorts of technical troubles on my side, but I am the director over at unfortunately, some difficulties getting in touch. So, we're trying to figure that out.
Ronnie, I can't seem to hear you super well. I'm so sorry. It seems to be there's a little bit of delay with everything, so not sure what's going on there. But I was just wondering if we could potentially dive in. Apologies.
I do think Mike Kehoe is on the line if you want to try him.
Yeah, Mike, are you available? Hi, can you hear us?
Oh, great. Well, good morning and good afternoon, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm Mike Kehoe. I'm with the Community College of Vermont, and I am the Director of Business Engagement and Workforce Development here for the college. And so I've been working here now for about 13 years, working primarily with industry, really industry agnostic. But about 4 years ago, we started to really focus on apprenticeship as a workforce strategy, and more specifically working with companies and more specifically occupations that have not traditionally been supported by apprenticeship. And so we've deployed a variety of really cool solutions around apprenticeship, and I'm happy to be here and share more about our success there.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Ronnie, would you want to try one more time, see if we can hear you a little bit better this time? Unfortunately, I can't quite hear anything. Do we have Patrick on at this time? It does not seem like it. That is all right. Well, Mike, it seems like we're going to be shifting a little bit here in our program today. So I was just wondering if Mike, you would actually not mind starting us off with everything today. I've got some phenomenal questions that I'd love to start with, but I was just wondering, as an intermediary at CV, you're bridging gaps in apprenticeships. What strategies have been most effective in promoting dual enrollment and programs like the Certified Production Tech in Vermont?
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to answer. I just want to double check that you can hear me okay.
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Oh, great, great. Yeah, so yeah, real quick, I think the key here is solving real workforce problems and considering all of the stakeholders involved, right? So our goal from day one has been to deploy apprenticeship in, like I said earlier, non-traditional occupations, which really means getting a lot of buy-in from stakeholders who may know very little or anything about the model. Educators, more specifically, I think apprenticeship intermediaries serve as a bridge, right? Convening talent, employers, the workforce system, everybody kind of together to create these new values. So what's, for better or worse, the labor force is contracted, not just here in Vermont, but nationally, such that companies need to recognize that they need to diversify their talent acquisition strategy. We can't rely on the local job board anymore and getting a flood of applicants. And at CCV, and I would argue community colleges in general, work with a really diverse group of people. So we're also in a really good position to serve as an intermediary because we're able to respond relatively quickly to local labor market shifts. So for example, we currently have a post-secondary initiative in partnership with corrections facilities across the state, and we're providing education and training to prepare residents for meaningful work upon release. Apprenticeship is a key component of that. We have a strategic partnership with the state's vocational rehabilitation system in deploying career pathways for people with disabilities in Vermont. Apprenticeship is a key component of that. But to your question about dual enrollment in high schools, here in Vermont, 45% of high school graduates are going direct to workforce. In other words, they're not seeking out traditional post-secondary options such as four-year degrees. And so when we look at the forecast here in Vermont, that's about 2,500 people every year that we are actively pursuing and promoting these apprenticeship opportunities after graduation. And an important tool that we use to promote these are our employer access days. And this is where we invite high school students that are interested in exploring a particular industry to come to the college for a couple of hours and meet with local employers. And these are employers generally that are current apprenticeship sponsors to learn about the jobs, the apprenticeships, the career paths that exist. And during that experience, they meet with college staff to learn, A, about the dual enrollment opportunities, that's to say the courses that they can take while they're in high school to get the foundational training, to get the certifications they need to secure those positions upon graduation. And in addition, some alternative post-secondary options for them to explore career fields like pre-apprenticeship and connect with employers. Both of these serve as really valuable opportunities, I think, for all high school students coming out of their secondary experience. Now, of course, the right employers need to be involved. And when we look at research, why people have exited the labor market, it's pretty consistent over the past 3 years. It's low pay, no opportunities for advancement. And so apprenticeship really helps to address both of these issues, from clear entry and exit points, guaranteed wage increases. And for the employer, we see this translate not only into increased talent pools, but increased retention, lower turnover. So for us, it's all about, when we think about as our role as an intermediary, especially in post-secondary world, it's about alignment. From dual enrollment, right, a couple of courses in high school that now nest right into a registered apprenticeship program. All of our registered apprenticeship programs also nest within college certificate programs, which nest within associate degrees. So even though we see a growing number of people coming out of secondary not seeking traditional four-year opportunities, we get them on a path so that they can continue to build their career and their academic underpinnings in concert with one another. And I think there are a lot of key elements here. I think I'm at my 5 minutes, so I apologize. But it's about alignment. It's about making sure that we are serving the needs of all stakeholders, from employers to career seekers, but also to other service providers and educators, and making sure that there's a path in and on beyond even the associate degree in the community college, but into four-year programs where we have articulation agreements like the Vermont State University, UVM, et cetera. So yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Before we continue on, I just wanted to double check. I think we may have one of our other panelists has been able to connect. Patrick, are you online? Are you able to hear me? You are muted potentially. Seem to be technical difficulty. Okay, we'll come back to that. That's all right. So I heard you say you were working with all different stakeholders, Mike. And so moving forward from that, as talking about different stakeholders, one of those important stakeholders are people who run apprenticeships and companies that actually run apprenticeships. And so we've got a couple people here from GS Precision as they introduced themselves earlier. And I was just wondering if you both could kind of take it off. Could you share some insights into GS Precision's registered apprenticeship program and its connection to the Vermont Tech Centers? How is this benefiting the industry and the students as well? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, be happy to. It's funny, as Mike was going through everything, he was basically describing exactly what we are and what we're doing. So I thought it was very pertinent. But basically we have a GSB school, GS Precision School of Manufacturing Technology, that we have developed for exactly what Mike described, workforce development. And we are trying to take young up and coming students that become employees and build their skills and have them build through the ranks at our company, become leaders of this company, and take us into the future, right? The youth is the future in our eyes. And so our GSB school program has been around since 2013, so 10 years now. We've had 5 cohorts go through, and one is due to graduate once again here in May. And basically you become an employee of GS Precision, and you work 4 days a week, regular 8-hour day. But the difference is that in the afternoon you take some classes. So from 4 to 6 o'clock, you take 2 classes per semester that are taught on campus at our GS Precision school, taught by our engineers of GS Precision. And I think that's a cool kind of unique aspect of it, in that you kind of learn the GSP way, right? You learn machining through our own lens, through the type of parts that we would make, and get to really get a feel of what it's going to be like out on the regular shop floor once you get there. During the days, they're also put into regular shop rotations, so they're not just working in one particular area for 2 years. We actually take them through the various different departments that we have, and have them learn a little bit about each particular area. And that is also a very kind of unique thing that tends to put these students a little bit ahead, is that, an operator in milling may not ever experience what it's like to work in a lathe, or to work in, quality, or to work in engineering. These students are getting this experience throughout the whole company that many of the employees that have been here 20 years may not have experienced just yet. So that's kind of a unique aspect of the school that we're very proud of. And at the end of the 2 years, they go through 10 shop rotations. They get to pick their top 3 or 5, whatever they like the most, and we'll actually place them into that particular area. And so we've seen the retention from this program. It's at around 75%. It's been excellent as compared to the retention for a regular employee. And what I wanted to take the rest of the time is to reintroduce Josh. Not only is he becoming the GSB school coordinator, he is a graduate of the school. He is a prime example of a very successful story of someone coming from the school. I don't think he mentioned this, but he, upon graduating the school, was our lead engineer in our GSB coding sister company, and has been doing that up, and will be doing that up until December 1st, when he fully takes on the GSB school role. So I just want him to talk a little bit about his experience going through the school, and obviously post-graduation of the school and where he's at now.
Fantastic, thank you, Jose. So I kind of want to just take you through the timeline of how I started at GS and then where I am now. 2018, I started as a co-op student, kind of like I discussed earlier, and I started as a machinist. I always wanted to be an engineer. I always liked doing things with my hands, always wanted to be a machinist, but I also wanted to move out when I turned 18. So I didn't think it was possible to go to college and, move out, live by myself. Luckily, I came across the GSB school program that I started as soon as I graduated high school in 2019, which allowed me to go through those rotations throughout the whole company, as well as earn a paycheck. So actually I was able to go to school and be an engineer at the same time as move out and, live by myself. Went through the rotations. Like Jose was saying, I think that's such an important piece of our apprenticeship, because it helps you understand the company holistically. And when you go and graduate the program, you're creating processes that don't only help your area, but also can be made easier for all the other areas. You're not stepping on other people's toes and making their lives harder, because you understand the whole process. 2021, I graduated the school, and my top pick for where I wanted to go was a sister company, GSP Coatings, where I've been the head engineer over there for about 2 years. And I just got promoted to the GSP school administrator / training coordinator. And I'm very excited and looking forward to working with most of you and just trying to develop school programs to something even better.
Thank you very much. Phenomenal. I appreciate that. That was a really wonderful response. And honestly, from there, I would love to redirect and go back to Maureen, actually. You're EBM, and you've in your introduction and just reading more about you've mentioned the future of semiconductor industry and then apprenticeships. So could you elaborate specifically on the intersection of technology and apprenticeships, the role of STEM centers in this context, tech hub designations, and how you interact with the apprenticeship system in that sense? And I know that you have some slides, so I will present those now. Let me just pull those up for us.
So just to kind of preface this, manufacturing in Vermont really is 1 in 10 Vermonters work in this space, and it accounts for almost 10% of the state gross domestic production. So it really is a critical part of our economy. It's a critical part of our ecosystem in the state. It provides high wage, high growth opportunities. And we also are part of a really interesting corridor from Quebec to Connecticut as part of an aviation manufacturing corridor. And we're also part of a really exciting agriculture manufacturing sector. And that's really the biggest, I think, growth sector in Vermont currently. But I'm here to talk about some opportunities for the future. And Mike alluded to some of this as well. I'm sorry, can you, Rowan, go back to my first slide really quickly? The one with the circles. Thanks.
Yes, absolutely. One moment.
Sure. And so what we see within manufacturing is there really is, and many of you probably know this already, but some of the factors that are actually really global but affecting us here in Vermont and in the region is really the automation of work. So many jobs are going to be transformed through that process. Potentially jobs will become obsolete because of automation. So we need to be able to upskill our workforce so they can take on these new positions. There's also kind of a skills gap, which we've heard, where we need to align what are the skills that are needed by employers in these high wage, high growth occupations and provide those skills through educational opportunities that typically can start in high school. And by that, I mean, as Mike mentioned, pre-apprenticeship opportunities, working with the high schools and the career and tech ed centers, embedding industry recognized credentials in the actual programs. There's a really good example through the plumbing and electrical program in the state where students can actually start that program their junior year of high school and start to work with an employer during that time frame and then complete that program at the Vermont State University. Also, the skills have shifted. As we know, technology is constantly changing. And there's still going to be the need for people that have the ability to critical think, to understand the technologies and be able to support their companies and organizations. There's a lot of studies out there that are saying that every 6 months, we're probably going to need new information and new skill sets. We also have really great opportunities for agile careers. So in terms of recruiting students, we want to make sure we can provide a really clear career trajectory for individuals so they know the value of the company that they're working for. An apprenticeship is a really great model for that because not only are you learning and earning, and Josh was a really good example, but you're moving up within your organization. One of the things that I think is really critical that Mike mentioned too is embedding in apprenticeship opportunities for students to continue on to other types of programs. So the programs that I had offered through Vermont Technical College, they were stackable. they had within them embedded certificates, and they were integrated into a broader curricular map. So you could earn an associate's degree after you completed your registered apprenticeship program, which could continue on to a bachelor's degree or even a master's degree. So that's a really exciting pathway for individuals. And oftentimes, if you're employed and hired at an organization, for example, the Global Foundries program that VTC offers, they will pay for you to get your associate's degree after you complete your apprenticeship program. The engagement of employers, as Mike mentioned, is really critical. They need to be a part of defining and developing the content and advising with the program because, again, technology is shifting constantly, so we need to make sure the programs are up to date. I think simulation technology is going to be the wave of the future, particularly in the semiconductor industry. We have a lot of really high-tech equipment that needs to be online and constantly, working for production. What kind of smaller fab labs can we create that use simulation to allow students to really get hands-on experience? I think another piece, which Ronnie will talk about a little bit later, is the recruitment of underrepresented individuals within the career sector. And that's something that we really worked on through a grant called the Strengthening Working Families Initiative, working with partners like Ronnie, with CCV, with other programs like Resource. We can really enhance our workforce. Assessment of prior learning is a really critical component too. The age group that we typically work with in many of these programs tends to be over 21. So it's not the high school population per se or the early college population. It tends to be older adults that have prior experience and they're bringing that to the table. So we need to value and honor that and help them with their pathways. And then, really apprenticeship is bidirectional. It means information and learning really flows back and forth between the expert and the apprentice. So everybody must have the skills and abilities to both be an apprentice and be apprenticed. So we really want to encourage individuals to become those mentors. I think that's a really critical piece. So sorry, next slide, please. So this is what I was alluding to, is that population that is out there in Vermont, particularly. So Vermont has a really high school graduation rate, but has a lower propensity to continue on to post-secondary education, which is really critical in some of these careers. And I'm not necessarily talking about a four-year degree. Anything after high school helps them with not only with accumulated wealth over time, but opportunities for career advancement in really high wage, high growth opportunities. Vermont has a really high population of students that have started college and opted out. And that is a future audience for us. They're underemployed, they haven't had an opportunity, and the learn and earn model through apprenticeship is really critical for that because the employer is helping and supporting them through their education. So next slide, please. So with recent news, which is really exciting, Vermont is in a unique position where they have a lot of amazing manufacturing companies, some of which you've heard about, some which you haven't. We were recently designated a tech hub by the U.S. government. The Economic Development Association of the U.S. has designated Vermont to become a critical component in developing both the workforce, both developing research and innovation and commercialization, and promoting onshoring or reshoring of our critical supply chain. So we're excited to be a part of this. We have multiple partners, including the Vermont State Colleges, Norwich, employers, including Global Foundries and other companies like Marvell and Core Power. So this opportunity will give a lot of resources potentially to the state of Vermont to continue and grow and expand our workforce in manufacturing. And the next slide will show why. I think some of you may have heard of the CHIPS Act. The US government is really trying to reshore all of our semiconductor industry to the US we were the innovators and the real creators of the semiconductor industry. But since that time, many companies from other countries have sort of exceeded us in certain markets. So this potential CHIPS Act will allow us to continue to grow the semiconductor industry. And the idea is there's going to be probably more than 2 million jobs needed in this space over the next few years. And this isn't just necessarily, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry to interrupt you. Could you just explain what the CHIPS Act is for our audience, please?
The CHIPS Act was funding from the federal government to help develop and improve the semiconductor industry. So semiconductors are typically called chips. So it was kind of a creative way to promote
Perfect,
that.
thank you.
So, and this includes all of the surrounding types of businesses and career paths that support that industry as well. So this is a huge monumental opportunity for Vermont to be a part of that process. And many of you know this, but semiconductors are a part of just about everything that we do day to day. Communication, they're in your phones, they're in your computer, they're used in industrial settings, they're used in automotive settings, they are in your cars. The federal government uses them for military equipment. So there's a wide variety of sources where this is needed. So not only do we need to hire more people and train them to be in this space, we also have many retirements looming. So there are replacement jobs that will need to happen. So this is a really critical time for us, and I think a great opportunity for Vermont. So that's it for me.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That was a phenomenal presentation. Thank you. And I wanted to specifically focus on thank you so much. I appreciate that. I wanted to specifically focus on something that you said in reaching underserved populations. I know you had mentioned Ronnie in your presentation that you just did, and I was wondering, Ronnie, are you available and on the phone?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you so much. Would you mind just reintroducing yourself for the audience, and then would you be willing to just tell us a little bit about what the outreach to non-traditional apprentices looks like and what the effort is to engage with young women specifically in the trades in Vermont, and then what successes and have you seen so far on that?
Absolutely. So I am Ronnie Basden. I'm the director at Vermont Works for Women, and our work primarily focuses on two different sides of the coin within this conversation. One is our work directly with participants. So that's both youth and adult women. And what we really try to do is, one, just build curiosity and confidence in going after non-traditional roles for women. And what does that look like? How do you find these training opportunities? How do you succeed in these training opportunities? And what does that look like across the state of Vermont? So really within our youth programming, we try to build hands-on activities and after-school and summer camps, bringing employers into the school system so that youth can really see these pathways, see themselves in these traditional roles, and then also know how to access them easily and be excited by them. We also provide hard skills pre-apprenticeship training to adult women, really to give them the necessary foundational skills to walk onto a job site or to take on some of these trades roles and apprenticeship pathways that they can really be successful in. And so that is in construction and plumbing, electrical, solar installation, some of our highest need, most in-demand jobs, but also within apprenticeship pathways that really provide great economic security and great economic independence for women and for their families. And so this work really looks to go across the state. Let's just talk about the programs we have. Let's show them how simple a pre-apprenticeship cohort can be in a 5 to 7 week setting, and how we can really quickly then connect you to a great apprenticeship pathway that you can then go and continue your earning potential and your transferable skill development there. But our work also works in the environment. So we want to give both youth and women the skills necessary to take on these jobs, but we also want to address why women haven't traditionally been in these roles, which really comes down to our work and learning environments. Encouraging women to go into them, encouraging our youth to go into trade certification programs or into some of these incredible educational pathways that other partners have identified on this call, and to show them what that can look like, but also to really work with employers in education settings to break down gendered norm and stereotypes, talk about the barriers that have been impacting women accessing these roles, and really come at this with a collaborative approach of how we can get more women and underrepresented individuals into these fields. And so a lot of our success stories really hinge on there is a huge demand for pre-apprenticeship programming for women. Our Trailblazers Trades Training Program continues to grow across the state, grow in new communities. We see more and more women wanting to access these programs. So we know the motivation is there. We know the untapped potential of workers is there. And it's really just making sure we're providing the necessary programs that fit what individuals need to really follow through with these programs. And, you know, Vermont Works for Women works really hard to make sure that even after women have graduated from our programs, that we're continuing to connect them to what is available in our state and what those potential opportunities can be in an apprenticeship pathway.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ronnie. I really appreciate you adding that. I think it's a beautiful and important part of this apprenticeship ecosystem is outreach to a lot of underserved individuals. And I know that I think Patrick Boyle of VMEC might be on. Patrick, can you hear me today?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Fantastic. We can hear you, Patrick. Wonderful. So we can hear you now, and I've got your slides up here. And I was wondering if we could circle back to you, and could you just give us a brief introduction to yourself, and then also give us an overview of your perspective and your take on manufacturing in Vermont, highlighting some key trends, challenges in Vermont's manufacturing industry, and then how apprenticeships can contribute to its growth in the future. I will start your slides from here. And Patrick, if you're ready to go, you're good to go.
Thank you very much, Ron. I'm sorry, everybody, for messing around trying to get in here. I'm here now.
That's all right.
My name is Patrick Boyle. I'm the Director and CEO of VMEC, which stands for the Vermont Manufacturing Extension Center. Actually, I started my working life as an apprentice. I joined British Railways. I'm from the UK originally, in Scotland. I joined British Railways on a 4-year apprenticeship program, and I completed that program, and I was an electrician doing maintenance on the railways, and I learned a lot from that experience and how useful that was for people leaving school with no path to college, or a lack of path to college, or a difficult path to college. There were craft apprenticeships available, and multiple different craft apprenticeships that were there for school leavers like me, which included education. So just a little bit about that apprenticeship, and I'm sure our friends from Austria will talk more about that. My apprenticeship also included 1 day a week of what we called release, which was to go to our local technical college, a bit like Vermont Technical College. It was called Bathgate Technical College, where we did the theory part, and then we went back to our workplaces to do the hands-on part. So when we talk about apprenticeships, I am talking from the position of being an apprentice myself and really getting the benefit from that, starting a career start for me, which ended up, you know, making it a very easy path for me, especially when I got into training and development. I had learned a lot from those apprenticeships and how they were structured so that we could take that to other roles and create similar types of processes. Vermont Manufacturing Extension Center is a part of a national network, and I'll explain what it is and then how it fits into Vermont manufacturing, how Vermont manufacturing looks, what's the landscape, and then what we hear from Vermont manufacturers are their top issues today. And Rowan, if you want to put up the slides, I think we can put the slides up on the screen and I can go through, but I can certainly talk to what the VMEC is. So VMEC is part of the NIST MEP program. NIST is the National Institute of Standards and Technology. It's funded by the Department of Commerce through Congress, and the mandate for the manufacturing extension program is to focus on small and medium-sized manufacturers in the United States. We are given federal money, which is often matched by state money, to go in a public-private partnership to help those small and medium-sized manufacturers grow their business, solve their problems, grasp their opportunities. The way that that works is we do charge for those services. That said, every dollar we charge, we can draw down $1 of federal grant so that we can provide those services at a below market rate for the type of services they are. So we provide an access program for small and medium-sized manufacturers so they can access top-level advisory talent at a price they can afford. That's the whole premise of the NIST MEP. We are in 50 states plus Puerto Rico, and VMEC is the Vermont version. Now, you can see on screen now, it talks about what we do, and you can see very clearly we're all about manufacturing. And that's where we are, small and medium-sized manufacturing. So if we move on to the next slide, I'll talk about our intent and then talk about a little bit about the businesses, the manufacturing landscape in Vermont. So if we move on to the next slide, that's our intent. That's what we're here to do. There are 1,200 businesses in Vermont which are classified as manufacturers. And you can see from this table who they are and what they do, or more or less what they do. We know this because they are divided up by what's called a NICS code. That's a National North American Identification Code, by which the government identifies all the different industries. And this set of industries in Vermont accumulates 1,200 businesses. They provide about 10% of Vermont's GDP, which is about $36 billion, so about 3.6 on the way to 4 billion. As Maureen said, they employ about 10% of Vermont's workforce, which is about 30,000 people. The average salary for manufacturing, yearly salary, is about $64,000, which compares to $56,000 for the average of other industries. So it's a well-paid job. It's a critical part of Vermont's GDP. And as you can see, we have a whole number of different industry classifications under the manufacturing umbrella. The largest one, it may surprise you, is food, beverage, and tobacco, if we put those two together, followed by engineering services, and of course, wood products. Now, the number of folks in these businesses and all the different categories are pretty small. And so if we go on to the next slide, we can show you the average size of a Vermont manufacturer. And that's important because when you're a larger manufacturer, up to maybe 500 people or above, because you have scale, it's much easier to implement programs and training programs and structured on-job training and apprenticeship programs because of that scale. In Vermont, this is complicated a little bit by the size of the establishments that we deal with. So 79% of all of those manufacturers that you just saw are between 1 and 19 employees. That's the largest group. Small manufacturers making something, whether it's an end product, whether it's a component for something else, whether it's an assembly, they're very small. And you can see from the chart that the larger size of manufacturing here is pretty small. There's only a small number, although they have a lot of people, and some have that scale where it's much easier to implement the training and apprenticeship style programs. So one of the things that we need to address as we look at apprenticeships going forward is how do we, by which method, by which approach can we help these 1 to 19 employee manufacturing shops, which is the majority, actually take part and have some trainees and apprenticeship people in those programs. The other thing about Vermont manufacturing is that in Vermont, we focus on high quality, high precision. We have niche products, and we have top end products. We don't do massive runs of widgets. So we tend to be tens of thousands runs, and they tend to be high end. They cost more, and they're full of the craftsmanship you would expect and the innovation you would expect from small groups like these employers, manufacturing employers here, finding a way to survive in areas of the market where their skill sets can be applied on the high-end, high-quality spectrum. And then as we talk to those manufacturers and we survey them on a constant basis, the next slide, please, Rowan, we can see that their main needs are classified in the slide, and I can talk to them right now, is that the biggest opportunity or challenge is 76% of them say employee recruitment and retention. And of course, that fits into our discussion today on the pipeline of apprentices, whether they're coming straight from school, whether they're mid-career, whether they're changing industry. How can we bring more people into manufacturing and have them trained to a level where they can get a recognizable qualification and portable qualification and help address this 76% number? And that's one of the big issues that the manufacturers in Vermont are having. I don't think that's news to anybody. This is from last year's surveys under the NIST MEP, and we can see that these ring true across the board. So I do believe, from my own experience of being an apprentice, I do believe that the more jobs and career paths we can get into apprenticeship schemes, the more structured on-job training we can offer for both school leavers and mid-career folks and non-traditional manufacturing sources for employment, the better it will be for Vermont manufacturing, the better it will be for Vermont. And so our role in this is that we will be supporting anything that can move the ball forward on growing our apprenticeship schemes in Vermont and trying to figure out how we can bring that to the vast majority of the very small businesses in the Vermont manufacturing landscape. So I'll leave it at that, Rowan.
Thank you so much. That was such a wonderful overview of the landscape here. I really appreciate it. And moving on from that, we've had a great description of what Vermont apprenticeships look like, and specifically manufacturing apprenticeships. And so I'd love to pivot now to Benjamin. And I was wondering if you could speak to us a little bit about your experience with apprenticeships here in the US and the Austrian model. I know you have some slides as well, so let me get those going.
Mm-hmm.
One moment, and fantastic.
So thank you again for having me. It's an honor to have the opportunity to show you our apprenticeship model that we have adopted here for Engel in North America. Maybe a few words to Engel and our company. We are a manufacturing company as well. We build machinery. So if you could go to the next slide, please. Specifically, we build machinery in the plastics injection molding space and related technology to it. So many of you may not know what an injection molding machine is. So our customers are active in a variety of industries, from medical to automotive to aerospace or construction, and they basically make plastic parts on our machines that you will certainly have in front of you when you look at your computer mouse, your keyboard, your screen. but also when you go in your car, many of the components that you will see are made on machines like that. And you can see in the pictures that they are very complex, but also they can be very simple. The variety is really great. They can be as small as a desk, but can be as big as a house. So our team has to work with all of those machines. Maybe if you go to the next slide, a few more general insights about our company. So we are Austria-based. We are family-owned since 1945. We are decently sized with 1.5 billion in turnover in the last financial year. And also we heavily invest back in our company with relatively large volumes for our facilities, including all the equipment that we need to make our machines, but also for R&D. We want to say that we're a technology leader. That means that we have to continually invest to stay on the front edge of the technology. Overall, we have around 7,000 employees, and I would say several hundred of those throughout our company in Austria, but also in other parts of the world, such as China, are apprentices. So one might think, so why would we here as the local branch in North America need an apprenticeship program? So if you could go to the next slide, please. So Engel has been active in the US and Canada over many years, and the map that you have on the screen now shows where our customer base is. So you can see that our customer base is strongly distributed throughout the country, and the dots, the red, blue, pink dots, they represent our field service technicians. So they are there, and if you click one more time, please, they are there to basically help our customers keep those machines alive. We currently have around 12,000 units in the market. They are all over the country, as I said, and we are currently handling the after-sales service by around 70 technicians. The problem we're facing, 27 out of the 70 are older than 55. So we, on the one hand, want to grow our business. Therefore, we need to grow our population of service technicians, but also we are facing a massive drain when you look at the upcoming retirements in the next couple of years. Also, we have seen that, with the higher technology or the more extensive the technology gets, it gets very difficult and expensive to recruit from the outside. So therefore, we have decided a couple of years ago to really start our own apprenticeship program. As I said, we have, in our company, a lot of knowledge from how it is done in Austria, but we still had to adopt it to fit to the American market. And for us, it's not an HR initiative. It is really core of our business strategy, because if we are unable to service the machines that we sell into the market, our customers will move away from us. So our business will not work if we don't have the relevant service technicians available to us in the field. Next slide, please. So as I said, in general, we know a lot about apprenticeship programs from our Austrian organizations as well as China, but we still, we have a true American apprenticeship program in place, which comprises of a certain defined hours of work throughout the 4-year program, but also the formal education that is required to have a certified program. I think somebody mentioned today that we also have a system of step increases. So every 6 months, with the progress in the program, the individual will earn more in comparison to the time before. Next slide, please. So we have it in place since July of 21. Currently, we have 14 apprentices in the program. So we started off pretty aggressively to build that pipeline because we really need those individuals go through the program and be full contributors in the field. Currently, we have 2 automation technicians as mechatronics engineers going through the program, as well as 12 field service engineers. So going forward, our plan is to keep a group of 4, or basically introduce a group of 4 people every calendar year to build a steady pipeline of members in the program and to have a steady output of up to 4 people throughout the year. As I said, we want to have around 16 to 18 people with a graduation of around 4 to 5 a year. We often get the question from other companies that we talk to in terms of, how many people, is it difficult to find apprentices? And, our experience was completely overwhelmingly positive. Up to now, with the 3 cohorts we started, we had more than 6,000 applicants for, the handful of positions that we were able to fill. So we have a very, very low acceptance rate, which I think gives us a really good group, and we've seen so far we have found really good people for that program. If you go to the next slide, please. Quick overview. We have a very structured recruiting process. Also, it's very unusual for us to have so many applicants, so we have had to work really hard to get through that. Usually it starts off with an introduction, and somebody mentioned it, the first time of the program. The individuals will be at our York facility in Pennsylvania. We are lucky to have a really good trade school, basically just a mile away, where they will take formal education in the morning, and in the afternoons they will be in our facility to work hands-on on our machinery. After that 4-month period, they will be sent back to their home area, and they will work with an experienced mentor as a field service technician in the field together with them. Throughout the years, they will come back to our facility for more training, but also they will have to go back to the school for more formal education. And after 4 years, they will be able to graduate as a certified journeyman. Next slide, please. Yeah, in comparison, I think it was mentioned already today, and I like the term that was used with the I think learn and earn. I think somebody mentioned. I think we are able to bring to the table or offer to potential candidates a quite attractive program in comparison to a traditional university education for people who the apprenticeship program is a better fit. And you can maybe click until all those bubbles are filled, but we are looking for people who are older than 25 because we need them to have some level of life experience, but also they have to travel. They need to be able to get rental cars, for example. But in the end, they will be able to graduate debt-free. They will, from our standpoint, they will be able to earn competitive wages, and also, they have an education that is really thought after, that is really important to us, but also should they choose to seek employment elsewhere, I think we leave them with a really strong education and a really strong work ethic as well. If you could go to the next slide, please. In summary, I would say that we are able to generate a win-win-win situation. One, for the apprentices, who we have seen have developed into very loyal individuals, very loyal, important team members. They are very proud of what they're able to do. They are very motivated to learn. For the mentors, we have seen that they really feel valued. When you ask somebody to be a mentor, that means something to them. That means that they are a knowledgeable team member, and we ask them to hand over their their knowledge to the next generation. There's a lot of pride involved with that. We've seen them, being really happy about that. But also for us as a company, we really have been able to expand our hiring abilities. We have now a program that helps us transfer some of the legacy knowledge that our team members have. But also we have seen so far that, we've really created a loyal workforce because they really, appreciate what we give to them. But on the other hand, we really appreciate what they are doing for us now, but more so what they will be doing for us in the future. Next slide, please. So thank you for having the opportunity to speak to you about our program. If you want to know additional information, we have a micro page on our website talking about the program, as well as we have a YouTube video where you will be able to hear from our apprenticeship for our apprentices themselves. So feel free to click that link. And as I said, thank you for having me, and I'm curious about the rest of the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That was a phenomenal overview of your company, and I love the discussion and the pointing out the pride and the culture and community that seems to be going into this, and the legacy knowledge. And Thomas is another guest that we have here who's in Austria right now. And Thomas, I was wondering if you could speak to a little bit more about what apprenticeship training looks like in Austria itself, where you are, and how those particular aspects of culture and pride and community are part of your experience in Austria.
Right. Well, thank you. And first of all, thanks for your interest in the Austrian system, and I'm very excited about this memorandum of understanding. I'm very much looking forward to the cooperation with you, and already now I can say that this cooperation will have to focus not so much on answers, because we in Austria cannot give you answers, and you in America won't be able to give us in Austria answers. But cooperation on apprenticeship training means asking the right questions and pointing each other to the principles which are behind apprenticeship training. And as Benjamin already said, I mean, they at Engel, of course, took the Austrian case as a starting point, but they had to invent an American model of apprenticeship training by, again, looking at principles, looking at, so to say, basic building blocks and asking the right questions. So I think this will be what our cooperation will have to be about, asking questions and pointing out certain principles. And nevertheless, as you asked me to do, I will give you now a presentation on the apprenticeship training in Austria, just for you to see with whom you are working in this memorandum of understanding and future cooperation. And by doing this, I will try to highlight, try to look at the issue of Austrian apprenticeship from three different angles, from three different perspectives. One is the education perspective. A second perspective is, of course, the labor market perspective, and somehow in the middle, then is the governance issues and the question on how to organize apprenticeship training and how to administer it. And if you move to the next slide, Rowan, you will see my perspective number one, namely the question of what place does apprenticeship training have in Austria in the formal education system. And this is actually the answer already, that in the Austrian education system, apprenticeship training is, so to say, a formal stream. So we have our education system in Austria looks much different than the one you have in the United States. So you see that there is no comprehensive high school system, but actually already quite a degree of differentiation at secondary level too, so at the grades 9 to 12, where there are principal three different streams. One is the academic or general education stream, which is probably very comparable, a little bit comparable at least, to your high school system. And then we have two streams of what we call vocational education and training. One is full-time school-based, and the other stream, and this is what we are talking about here today, is the apprenticeship training, which we refer to as dual vocational education and training. And it is dual because it combines work-based learning in a company, usually about 80% of an apprentice's time, and learning at a school, at a vocational school, which usually comprises about 20% of time. And overall, all in all, you have about 40% of an age cohort in this dual VET, in this dual vocational education training, this apprenticeship training. So 40% of an age cohort get their secondary education in apprenticeship training, and so it is actually quite a large, actually the largest educational stream that we have in Austria. The starting age, the minimum starting age to start an apprenticeship in Austria is 15 years. So in grade 10, actually, after having undergone a pre-vocational school. So you're typically 15 years old when you start, but the average age is a bit older. It's like 16.9, so much younger than you have the situation in your country with this comprehensive high school system that is probably the basis also for apprenticeship training. There are about 200 different occupational profiles, so curricula, if you may say so, in apprenticeship training. And by saying this, I'm already moving a little bit into the direction of the second perspective that I'm trying to give, namely the governance perspective, namely that these occupational profiles are negotiated between the social partners. And when I say social partners, this is in the Austrian, actually European context. These are the organized representation of labor and of employers. So it is the Economic Chamber of Commerce, representing the employers, and they, together with the trade unions and the Chamber of Labor, negotiate on the content of apprenticeship training. So the standards that we have, the professional profiles, they are nationwide and they are binding for companies. And I think this is already a big difference and a huge, so to say, starting point or principle in the Austrian case, that companies are not free to train and pick, certain content as they think it is necessary, but they really have to follow, as to say, an overall standard, an overall occupational profile, which is, and this is the important point that I'm trying to make, which is business driven at the national level. So it is negotiated between employers, between trade unions at the national level. And after having, so to say, agreed on a national standards, then this national standard is being decreed in a formal ordinance by the Minister of Economy and Labor. And at the same time, it becomes the basis for the curriculum at the school, at the vocational school. And if you move to the next slide, you see that when you look at and I also use your word, Rowan, the ecosystem, it is important to note that there are a lot of different organizations a lot of different organizations regulating the system and also supporting companies. One aspect I already talked about is the national standards being negotiated by the social partners, so employers and employees. And actually, we like to call the apprenticeship training dual. And the word dual system actually refers to these two aspects, namely that it is dual in the context of that it is a shared endeavor between companies and school. So part one is company, part two are the schools. And it is also dual in the way that there is some organized, institutionalized cooperation between the world of work represented by the social partners and the world of education and the government on the other hand. And if you look at the ecosystem from a company perspective, you get something like I tried to draw, namely a graph where you see lots of different organizations being present there and supporting companies in all, to say, cycles of apprenticeship. Before the apprenticeship, when it comes, when the question is about how to become a training company, about the trainer qualification, how to qualify, how to train the trainers, because career guidance, how to bring in young people into the apprenticeship training, and then of course the recruitment phase, where companies are being supported with aptitude tests, with vacancy platforms, etc., etc. And then, of course, the main phase, the practical learning in a company, where again, there are lots of different, and I won't go into details, practical and also financial incentives for companies to train apprentices and bring them to a successful apprenticeship leave exam. And this leave exam, and this is also important, despite the fact, or not despite, but even though it is part of the Austrian formal education system, it is administered and being organized by the economic chambers, so by the employers' organizations. The employer organization in Austria organizes the exam. The examiners are typically practitioners from the companies and from the trade unions. And despite, or even though it is, so to say, privately organized or organized by the employers' organizations, it is a formal education qualification that comes out of it. So the economic chambers in this context act on delegated authority of the Ministry of Economic Affairs. This is a legal term, I know, but it means that you have here an organization which is not the state, acting on behalf of the state and conferring and awarding the qualification, which again is the apprenticeship leave certificate. And if you move now to the last slide, I can touch upon the third perspective that I wanted to share with you, namely the place of apprenticeship training on the labor market. And this graph, I know, deserves a little bit of an explanation, and this is what I will do with my remaining two minutes of speaking time. On the left column, you have the overall jobs structure, the makeup, if I may say so, of the Austrian labor force. So you have around 5% of Austrians work as managers, about 21% work as professionals, and then about 18% as technicians and associate professionals, and so on. Some 48%, and this is the largest component of the Austrian labor force, are skilled workers, crafts and trade workers, and some 8% of people work in elementary occupations. This is according to ISCO, the International Standard Classification of Occupation, which I assume that you use in America as well. And what is now interesting is to look at the makeup, and this is the right-hand column of what is the highest qualification, the highest education of the people working in these job categories. And if I start from the top, so 4.8% of Austrians work as managers, and within these 5%, you have 19.6% of people with an apprenticeship degree as their highest qualifications. Of course, in this field, you have lots of people with higher education, with university diplomas, but it is notable, I think, that almost 20% of people in Austria working as managers have come via the apprenticeship training system into their job. The same applies now to the next column, professionals. Here, by definition, when we're talking about doctors and lawyers, etc., there should, of course, be no apprentices, because in order to be a doctor in Austria, in order to be a lawyer in Austria, of course, you have to have a university degree, but some jobs are also categorized under this label for which you don't need a university degree. And this is why there are like almost 5% of people working as professionals in Austria having an apprenticeship degree. For instance, if you work as a consultant or something comparable. And the same applies then to the technicians and associate professionals, where there are 31% of people with an apprenticeship degree. And then, of course, and this is, so to say, the objective of apprenticeship training, namely to train people in order to work in this job category of skilled workers, crafts and trade workers, office clerks, etc., where they have an overall employment of almost 50%. And of these 50%, half of them have an apprenticeship degree. And then, of course, you also have the elementary occupations, and here also you have apprentices or apprenticeship graduates. So basically what I'm trying to say and trying to show is that if you have a very important, so to say, stream of in education and training, which is apprenticeship training, and this has been said earlier, if you have this critical mass, it is easy and it is possible to organize it in a proper way, to have a system behind it. And secondly, it shows that it is indeed possible to move up all the way to the top professional positions with having such such a qualifications. So yes, as I said, apprenticeship training is an important field of our skills formation system in Austria. But also at the same time, I must say that, of course, we in Austria struggle as well with lots of challenges in keeping the system attractive. And we in Austria have probably comparable developments as you have in the United States and actually worldwide. Of course, we also have a trend towards higher education. We also have a trend to universities. And in this, in this world, it is incredibly important. And here I'm coming back to the first slide that I showed you, to have a clear place for apprenticeship training in the overall education system. And this has a lot to do with also making it possible to progress out of apprenticeship training into higher education, and probably even more important, to progress from apprenticeship training into other higher professional qualifications, which we in Austria call higher vocational education and training. This are, for instance, master craftsmen qualifications and the like. So what you in your country would statistically try to capture with some college, I think there's a lot of room for qualifications such as the ones that I alluded to, qualifications either in apprenticeship training directly or qualifications which build upon apprenticeship training. And yeah, and this is what I wanted to share with you. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Thomas. That was incredible. I learned a lot from that, and I hope our audience did as well. I appreciate the in-depth overview of what the system looks like in Austria. Unfortunately, we're running up very close on time, but I do have one question that I would love to ask all of our panelists to see if they could answer the audience, and that is, in just a few moments, I was just going to ask what your key takeaway or piece of advice for our audience is today. Is there just one thing you can quickly tell us?
Sure, I'll jump in. I think there is a lot of opportunity for apprenticeshipal occupations and growth in the sector, not only in Vermont, but nationally. And the Learn and Earn model is a critical way to recruit and retain people for really high wage, high growth sectors that are a critical part of our economy.
Thank you. Anyone at GS Precision?
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway from this is what a great model it is, and it's working several different ways in a positive way. So then my next thought is, how do we promote it even more, right? How do we now go into, and that's something we're doing for our apprenticeship programs. How do we get into the tech schools, the high schools, let these young kids know this is a viable opportunity and this is a viable career for you as you go into the workforce. And I know, when I was in high school, this is not something I even considered. It's not something I knew enough about to say, yes, this is what I want to do, or this is an option for me. It was just kind of like, go to college, go to college, go to college. And that's all right. That was a viable route as well. But I think this is something that just needs to be more broadly spread to these young kids as a viable opportunity.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Ronnie, did you have any takeaways?
I really echo everything everyone has really shared. I think it's exciting to grow and be creative with our apprenticeship models and our apprenticeship pathways. We know there's motivated potential out there, and we know that there's a lot of individuals really willing to want to make this successful for the state and for all that want to go through the apprenticeship model.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Mike, are you still online? Do you have any takeaways you can provide us?
I think this conversation, for me at least, highlights the increase in interest and embracement and adoption of apprenticeship. So I think we're headed in the right path.
Fantastic. Thank you. Patrick, any takeaways today for the conversation?
Yeah, I think it's really great that we're trying to expand the sourcing pool to bring into highly skilled jobs through apprenticeships. And when you have such a structured approach to training, it means that just about anybody can be recruited and become a colleague in the manufacturing world. So I'm excited to open up that sourcing pool.
Fantastic, thank you. Benjamin, do you got anything? Have anything?
Yes. So I think from our own experience, we can say there's a lot of interest out there for candidates to seek apprenticeship programs. So I can really only encourage governments and also other support organizations to standardize, to offer to smaller companies, a system so that they can interface with that and don't have to reinvent their own apprenticeship program every single time. So that's what I really encourage you guys to do.
Thank you. And Thomas, do you have anything?
Well, yeah, I would like to offer two questions, and I think these are the two most important policy questions to be answered in any country. Namely, one is how to make it attractive for companies to engage in apprenticeship training, and the second would be how to make it attractive for individuals to undergo apprenticeship training, because there are good solutions for both, for companies and for individuals, but you have to, find answers to the two questions in order to get the thing moving. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that last comment. Thank you everyone for coming today. Thank you to all the attendees who stuck around. We appreciate it. We know there were some technical difficulties and we thank everyone for your patience, but I think this discussion was a huge success and I really appreciated hearing from everyone. Your expertise was incredible and the department is thankful to you for your time today. I think we have a great start to this partnership, to the Memorandum of Understanding that we signed yesterday. I think this is a first step, and I really look forward to building a partnership and a robust and global apprenticeship ecosystem, not just in Vermont, but across the world as well. Thank you everyone for your time today, and audience, if you have any questions, you can feel free to email me. It's rowan.hawthorne@vermont.gov. I'm happy to answer any questions for you. In addition, we'll get this recording up to the website and a lot of different resources as well on different apprenticeship systems, including the Austrian system if you're interested in learning more. Otherwise, thank you to everyone again and have a phenomenal day.